Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, May 12th, 2020. Today I'm going to talk about the latest news related to the coronavirus, recap last night's KBO games like I did tonight's slate, news about Tony Hawk and what could be coming in terms of pro skater, sport reruns I want to talk about, what was on last night and what is on tonight, my 2014 MLB ReDraft, and my 2016 top 10 movies. All right, we'll start with the virus and what's the latest. The rumored MLB plan is such a huge deal. The players just have to approve of it. There is a lot of talk that it's going to be denied by the players, so it would be an 82-game regionalized schedule. You have the two East divisions for the most part combining, the two Central divisions for the most part combining, and the two West divisions combining. And I say for the most part for the Central and the East because they're flipping the Pirates and the Braves. So the Pirates are going to be in the East and the Braves are going to be in the Central. And teams like the New York Yankees, the Tampa Bay Rays, the New York Mets, and the Washington Nationals catch a good break there, and teams that catch a bad break by the Braves being in their division are the Cardinals, the Reds, the Cubs, the Brewers, and obviously the Indians, the Twins, and the White Sox as well. So the Central just got a little bit tougher as the East would get a little bit weaker in that sense, flipping a rebuilding team in Pittsburgh and a win-now team in Atlanta. So that plan looks like it's true, coming from the AP, and the Associated Press isn't a sports really related news circle. That's more news, but they're not wrong very often. So that looks like that is going to be true. And I might have mentioned this yesterday. If I didn't, I'll mention it again. The AHL canceled the rest of its season. Comes to no surprise, in my opinion, because the G League canceled. And I think baseball isn't going to have a minor league season this year, which is very sad for a lot of these young prospects in baseball that really have some potential. And the AHL said that next season could be in jeopardy if they have to play without fans, which is a shame because the AHL is obviously the NHL's minor league facilitator, or one of them, and the one right beneath the NHL. So hopefully things are better by September, and the season's really going to start. The 2020-2021 season will probably start in December because the assumption is that they're going to continue the season in the summertime. So you would think that hockey's regular season for next year will be shortened and start in 2020-2021, and the NBA season might be shortened as well. They're probably going to treat them like lockout seasons. And lockout seasons, I know a lot of people have asterisks by them, but some good teams won championships in lockout seasons. The Blackhawks in 2013 in hockey, the 2011-2012 Miami Heat, obviously LeBron James and company. So a shortened season next year or next season for those sports, and even a shortened baseball season this year, just treat it like a lockout season. And everyone's saying, it's going to be asterisk. So that means the 2011-2012 Miami Heat is an asterisk because they won in a lockout season. The Spurs in 1999 was an asterisk because that was a lockout season. Well, they had Tim Duncan and Robinson. So I don't like the fact that people are putting asterisks by them. It's not like they cheated. Some great teams have won championships in shortened seasons. So be it. the KBO, I'm going to go over the results from last night and look ahead to the games tonight. NC defeats KT 7-6. Kia defeats Hanwha 2-1. Doosan over Lotte 11-6. So Lotte suffers their first defeat of the season. Kaiwoom over Samsung 3-2, and LG over SK 9-5. So the standings: Kaiwoom 6-1, NC and Lotte are 5-1, Doosan's 4-2, LG's 3-3, Kia is 3-4, Hanwha's 2-5, Samsung 2-5, KT and SK 1-5. I was gonna do power rankings for today's show. Maybe we'll hold that off for tomorrow or just wait another week to see how things really shape up. So tonight's slate, well, tomorrow at 5:30 a.m. really shouldn't be tonight. Samsung at Kaiwoom, Kia at Hanwha, Doosan at Lotte, KT at NC, and SK at LG. I'm going to pull up the odds right now on DraftKings. And why not make some picks here? So the first game I had mentioned was obviously the Samsung at Kaiwoom match. DraftKings didn't have the games listed, so I'm going to see if FanDuel has them. They have the money lines, but not like the totals up. And they only have 4 games up. So KT at NZ. KT 1-5. NC is 5-1. NC is a big favorite. Kia at Hanwha. Kia is a -152 favorite. Hanwha is +126. Hanwha 2-5 in the standings. Kia is 3-4. So I think +126 is worth the shot there on the money line for Hanwha. SK at LG. LG is even money, and the Winers are -122 favorites. SK is 1-5, and LG is 3-3. LG at even money, that's the best pick on the board that I see right now. Samsung's +180 on the money line, and Kaiwoom is -225. Kaiwoom obviously 6-1, and Samsung is 2-5. So I don't see value there with Samsung. But I do like 2 dogs. I like Hanwha and I like LG tonight. And the other matchup is unfortunately not available on the board for betting, even for just the money line. Now I want to talk about Tony Hawk Pro Skater is coming back. It will be re-released in September as a remasterization, available September 4th on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. This is awesome. I was a big fan of this game when I was younger, and it was very popular back in the day, and it's really, really, really cool. And obviously Tony Hawk was on The Masked Singer this season. He was the elephant who got booted off first in Group B. So I think it's pretty neat that he announced today that his famous skateboarding game is being remastered. So that is really neat news, and it's unfortunate. It should have been probably released around this time because it would keep people from being bored during this pandemic. But who knows what things will be like in September. I'm a half glass full type of person, as you guys know from the show, and I do think things will be somewhat normal in September. So I still think it's very cool that that game is being remastered. Now I want to talk about some reruns in sports that have been on recently, such as last night. 2009 Bills Patriots. It was Tom Brady's first game back from his torn ACL. The Patriots were down by 11 points, and they come from behind and win. And the Bills had that 11-point lead with 5 minutes left in the game. And Tom Brady looking like the Tom Brady of old, leading the Patriots to a Week 1 victory there, 27-24. FIFA Women's World Cup, USA Germany, a classic game in the USA Women's run to the Cup. You had 2016 Tigers Nationals, Max Scherzer, 20 strikeouts. Fitting he did that against his former team. 2018 Browns Raiders was a fun regular season game. Baker Mayfield and Derek Carr. 2015 Winter Classic, Blackhawks Capitals. The Capitals hosted the game, and then the Caps hosted the game. The Blackhawks won their third cup of the Taves-Kane era. So tonight on ESPN, 2001 World Series Game 4, Diamondbacks at the Yankees, October 31st, 2001. That is the Mr. November game where Derek Jeter hits that famous home run, which earned him the nickname Mr. November. So that is one of the best baseball games of all time. We know that the Yankees did not win that series, the Diamondbacks did, but that was probably one of the more memorable World Series ever, because it was a team going for its fourth consecutive title. Probably should have won its fourth consecutive title, but give credit to the Diamondbacks. They had a good roster, good pitching, and they got the job done off of the best closer of all time in Mariano Rivera. So, yeah, that obviously will go down as a very memorable series for sure. They're also airing on MLB Network Don Larson's Perfect Game from 1956. And that's obviously a memorable game. David Wells' Perfect Game from 1998 against the Minnesota Twins. Doc Gooden's no-hitter from 1996 against the Mariners. So a lot of Yankee all-time games on both MLB Network and ESPN tonight and throughout the day. David Cohn's Perfect Game from 1999 will be on as well on MLB Network. So that's pretty neat that the Yankees, a lot of their memorable games are going to be on today. I think that's just a coincidence because the Jeter game and then obviously all the no-hitters and perfect games that were special to the Yankees. 2008 Cavs Celtics, that's probably going to be the Game 7, LeBron versus Pierce, as the Celtics came away with that Game 7 win on their way to their championship in 2008. 2012, Philadelphia at Boston. So Rajon Rondo triple-double with Celtics, the Game 1 win. So that was Game 1 of that series. The Sixers took them to 7. They were the big beneficiaries to Derrick Rose getting injured. I know a lot of people are going to have that 2012 playoffs as an asterisk, and that's why so many people think that LeBron James' first ring was an asterisk because Derrick Rose got injured. You don't know if Derrick Rose was healthy that they would have beaten Miami. Guess what? I probably would have picked Miami in 2012 over the Bulls had that been the Eastern Conference Final. It probably would have been the Eastern Conference Finals, but it's not a guarantee that the Bulls would have went to the finals over the best player of this century in LeBron James. So, at the peak of his powers as well, with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. So, a lot of people think that Sixers team was just a asterisk Eastern Conference semifinal participant due to the Derrick Rose injury. But you got to give them credit. I mean, Joakim Noah was also hurt in that series, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So, and they beat the Bulls in 6. That was the last time we had an 8-1 upset in the NBA playoffs. And then 2019 Philadelphia, Toronto. That's probably the Kawhi shot. Today's the anniversary of the Kawhi shot. Oh, yeah, this day in history. So that makes sense. And 2 76ers losses. So Philadelphia is probably not thrilled about especially the most recent one last year, because let's face it, that shot propelled the Raptors to the NBA Finals. And let's say Philly wins that game. Do they beat the Bucks? Who knows? A lot of people think that. I'm going to say probably not because they don't have the best player on the court. The best player on the court would have been Giannis Antetokounmpo. That series would have probably went 6 or 7 with the Bucks, and the flip of the coin. Although in that series, if it was Philly against Milwaukee in the conference finals, Philadelphia would have had 2 of the best 3 guys in the series, and Embiid and Simmons, and obviously Giannis is the best player of those teams. So, if those 2 are in a playoff series, then some people I think would pick Philly because they have 2 of the best 3 guys, and people are going to judge because of that Christmas Day game this past year where they blew out the Bucks. And I was one that was on the Bucks that game, and I was proven wrong because Philadelphia is always that team that falls short in big games within recent years. But they came through there, and they're better in big games at home than they are on the road, too. I should have factored that in a little bit in terms of predicting that game on Christmas last year. So that's really it for the sports reruns. And now I'm going to do my 2014 MLB redraft. This was a fun redraft. A lot of big names in the league right now that were drafted, and there's a lot of guys who are still trying to establish themselves from this draft as well. So without further ado, here we go. Number 1, Houston Astros, Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman has emerged as the best player to be drafted from this draft class. When I did this redraft a couple years ago, I think I had Aaron Nola at number 1 because Matt Chapman really hadn't broke out yet. I had Matt Chapman in that redraft for sure, but I don't think I had him at number 1. I probably had Aaron Nola number 1 because Aaron Nola was having a great season that year. But no, Houston goes with Matt Chapman here. And is Matt Chapman a better player than Alex Bregman? Probably not, but defensively he's better than Alex Bregman. And both these guys are great players, obviously. So maybe they take Chapman here and then still take Bregman, and one of them becomes a trade piece, and maybe they deal Matt Chapman into Detroit for Justin Verlander, per se. So a lot of what-ifs in this redraft. And maybe Detroit would have gotten a better package for Verlander. Second, Miami, they go with Rhys Hoskins. That's someone I could have had at number 1 in this redraft when I did it a couple years ago. But Rhys Hoskins is a great player. He just is kind of positionless. He's meant for the American League. But if this NLDH thing comes to fruition, then that's huge for players like Rhys Hoskins. So, Rhys is a great player. A lot of power. He probably would be playing first base for Miami right now if he was there. And by the way, Houston at number 1 took Brady Aiken, who did not sign, and Miami went with a pitcher, Tyler Kolek. So 2 busts right there. Either a bust or didn't sign. Well, I consider Aiken a bust because he signed with the Indians after he drafted by them a few years later and hadn't panned out. White Sox at 3 go with Aaron Nola. So Aaron Nola falls to 3 in the redraft. Could you imagine, let's say the year is 2016, Aaron Nola, Chris Sale in the same staff? Maybe they don't trade Chris Sale. Who knows? So that would have been a fun duo. And instead, the White Sox went with Carlos Rodon. The Cubs at number 4 go with Jack Flaherty, another great pitcher. Really has emerged as the ace of the Cardinals staff. Nola versus Flaherty is an interesting conversation, but I like the upside of Aaron Nola better than the upside of Jack Flaherty, although I think both these guys are aces, and both of these guys are obviously all-star players. Actually, no, Flaherty didn't make an all-star team. Well, Flaherty will make an all-star team someday because he has nasty stuff. He'd be the ace of the Cubs right now, and the Cubs, maybe if they had him around, maybe they don't sign Yu Darvish, and maybe their rotation consists of Flaherty, John Lester, and maybe they don't make the Jose Quintana deal, more importantly. because they gave up a lot for him, and maybe Eloy Jimenez is still a Cub. Yeah, the Cubs made a lot of mistakes, even though they did win in 2016. They traded some of the wrong players, and some of these free agent and trades really didn't work out for them. But Jack Flaherty on the Cubs, I think, would put them in a really good position right now. And they're probably closer to a second World Series in the Theo Epstein, Jed Hoyer era if he was around. And instead the Cubs went with Kyle Schwarber, which wasn't a bad pick. He helped them win that World Series. And if he didn't come back for the World Series, they don't win that series, in my opinion. So that wasn't a bad pick at all. The Twins at number 5 go with Trey Turner. So Trey Turner falls to 5 in the redraft. Trey Turner's somebody that hasn't made an all-star game yet, but I think he eventually will. Obviously, the starting shortstop on the Nationals. He'd be the starting shortstop on the Twins right now, and he's better than Jorge Polanco. He will be better than Jorge Polanco. Jorge Polanco's not bad, but Trey Turner's just has a higher ceiling. And maybe Polanco would have been a trade piece for a pitcher. Maybe Trey Turner would have been a trade piece for a pitcher, too. Who knows? And instead, they go with Nick Gordon. The Mariners at 6 go with Michael Conforto, the all-star outfielder for the New York Mets. He obviously would be on the Mariners right now, unless they would have traded him, because the Mariners tend to trade everybody. But he would be a solid person to have on that team in terms of young assets. Instead, they went with Alex Jackson. The Philadelphia Phillies at 7 go with Kyle Schwarber. So with Aaron Nola off the board, they take Kyle Schwarber. Schwarber in Philadelphia would have been awesome. He would have benefited from that ballpark. And if the National League had a DH, he probably would have been their DH. Maybe if he was drafted by Philadelphia and say there's no DH, maybe he's a trade piece, or stick him in left field or first base, because Rhys Hoskins goes to the Marlins in this redraft. So, like I said, Philadelphia made the right pick, and they went with Aaron Nola. The Rockies at number 8 go with Kyle Freeland in real life, but in the redraft, Alex Verdugo. Verdugo is somebody that has a high ceiling. Was obviously the key piece in the Mookie Betts trade to the Red Sox. And the Red Sox really need him to emerge as a solid contributor for them to make the Mookie Betts trade actually look okay. So, like I said, the Rockies took Kyle Freeland instead, but Verdugo would have been a nice building block for the Rockies to have, along with Charlie Blackmon in that outfield. The Blue Jays at number 9 go with Michael Kopech. Kopech could have gone higher in this redraft, but he didn't because of injuries he had suffered throughout his career. He showed flashes of brilliance before his Tommy John surgery with the White Sox, and he's obviously a very popular breakout pitcher this year, coming off the Tommy John surgery. And if he emerges into a Walker Buehler type of young pitcher, like some people think, then the Red Sox could end up regretting that Chris Sale trade. Although they did win a World Series with Chris Sale, obviously, and Sale was a part of that team, and they deserve credit for it. But like I said, they probably traded some of the wrong players. Now looking back, and instead, the Jays went with Jeff Hoffman. The Mets at number 9 go with Michael Chavis. So with Michael Conforto off the board, they go with Michael Chavis, someone who showed flashes as a rookie with the Red Sox last year, playing at second base. He'd probably be seeing playing time with the Mets right now as well. Instead, the Mets, like I said, went with Michael Conforto, which was a good pick. The Blue Jays at 11 go with Luke Weaver. He's somebody that showed a lot of promise last year at the Diamondbacks, was a key part in the Paul Goldschmidt trade. So Michael Kopech and Luke Weaver would have been a nice haul for the Blue Jays from this draft, but they obviously whiffed in this draft. And with the 11th pick, they went with Max Pentecost. The Brewers at number 12 go with J.D. Davis, someone who's a role player on the Mets and was a role player on the Astros. He really broke out on the Mets last year, but I don't know if that's really real or not. He certainly would have been a big help to the Brewers and just stick him right there at either first base or third base, he would have been a good fit on that team. And instead they went with Cody Metacross. The Padres at 13 go with John Means. So they took Trey Turner, so he was already off the board. That was a good pick at the time. And then they failed by trading him to Washington in a big deal that netted the Rays Steven Souza Jr. and netted the Padres Will Myers, and then obviously the winners of that deal were the Nationals because they got the best player in that deal in Trey Turner. When it was all said and done. But John Means was someone that had a breakout year at the Orioles last year. Made the All-Star team, but really fell off a cliff in the second half of the season, so we really don't know if John Means is that good or not, or if they're just benefiting from being on a bad team, facing the Blue Jays a couple times a year. Although he had some good games against the Red Sox and the Yankees, so you got to give him some credit for that. But doubters would say, the Yankees had injuries and the Red Sox weren't that good last year. But I think John Means is a huge wild card here. And I think him on the Padres would have been fine because he'd then benefit from a bigger ballpark than being in home run friendly Camden Yards. The San Francisco Giants at 14 go with Jordan Montgomery. Jordan Montgomery was very good as a rookie in the Yankees rotation in 2017. And in 2018, he got Tommy John surgery. Came back in 2019. Wasn't really all that great. He was just showing rust coming off the TJS. But him in San Francisco would be giving him some wonders. In a big ballpark like that, he would have been a nice fit there. And instead, they went with Tyler Beede. 15, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Brian Anderson. Brian Anderson is somebody that is coming off a breakout year at the Marlins. Nice, cute little building block, but I'm not convinced he's some franchise player. He would have helped the Angels. His numbers, I think, would have been better on the Angels. They're a team with a smaller ballpark than Miami. So I think that would have been a good fit, and he'd slide right in there in third base for them. And instead, they went with Sean Newcomb. The Diamondbacks at 16 go with Mitch Keller. He's somebody that really struggled on the big league level. But like I said, I give young pitchers 3 to 4 years to figure things out. Because sometimes they're late bloomers. Like we saw with Lucas Giolito last year. And maybe you'll see that with Michael Kopech, potentially, but that's more due to injury than inconsistency. But maybe Mitch Keller is a late bloomer. But right now, he's just an unknown and was a highly touted prospect by the Pirates and still is their number one prospect. And they're still high on him to become an ace-caliber pitcher. And instead, they went with Touki Toussaint. The Kansas City Royals at 17 go with Kyle Freeland. So Kyle Freeland falls to 17. He would have been higher had he had the year he had in 2018 last year. Obviously, he was terrible last year, which hurt his stock in this redraft. I think he's a bounce-back candidate for this season, this shortened season. What sucks for Kyle Freeland is that he's pitching in Coors Field. But he had success in Coors Field in 2018. But 2019 was a huge drop-off. We'll see if he bounces back in 2020. I think it's very possible because he really showed flashes of becoming a future ace. And maybe Kansas City would have benefited him more than Colorado. Because like I said, Coors Field obviously is known for a lot of offense. And KC's ballpark is huge. So, yeah. I think that maybe he would have benefited from pitching in a small ballpark like Kansas City. And instead the Royals went with Brandon Finnegan, who was moved up to the big leagues very fast in his young career and pitched in the World Series for the Royals in 2014. 18, the Washington Nationals go with Jordan Yamamoto. Yamamoto is somebody that showed some promise with the Marlins this past season. A lot of the Marlins' young pitching showed some promise last year. He benefits from pitching in Marlins Park, obviously, Yamamoto. But he's somebody that could be a mid-rotation guy, and he certainly would have helped the Nationals as like a possible number 4 guy behind their big 3. And instead, the Nationals went with Eric Feed. The Cincinnati Reds at 19 go with Tyler Beede. So Beede falls from 14 to 19. Beede is someone that showed promise with the Giants throughout his career. A little inconsistent. And instead, the Reds went with Nick Howard. The Tampa Bay Rays at 20 go with Brent Honeywell. How ironic. Brent Honeywell is somebody that they took in the second round of this same draft. He's somebody that had some setbacks due to injuries. He probably would have been in the big leagues sooner had not been for injuries. He's somebody that I think has a ceiling of a number 2 starter. The Rays are absolutely loaded, man, with the current staff they have and the guys they have in the minors that have some potential. And that's both on the pitching side and with the offense side as well. I think the Rays are in a very good position to succeed going forward with their issues that they're in the same division as the New York Yankees. So that's a little bit of a problem. Maybe if they're in the NL East, if this was a regular actual season, they would have had a better chance to win that division than being in the Yankees division. So yeah, Rays go with Brent Honeywell. And instead, they go with Casey Gillespie. The Indians at 21 go with Sean Newcomb. Newcomb was somebody that the Braves netted in the package that sent Andrelton Simmons over to the Los Angeles Angels. Newcomb was somebody that showed flashes of dominance coming out of the bullpen and did start some games for Atlanta, but really kind of has fallen off over the last couple of years due to injuries and stuff. And he would have been a nice fit or a nice asset for the Indians. And instead, they went with Bradley Zimmer. The Dodgers at 22 go with Carlos Rodon. So Rodon falls from 3 to 22. He showed some flashes, but it's not what the White Sox were hoping for, I don't think. And instead, the Dodgers went with Grant Holmes, who they dealt it away to Oakland in the Rich Hill deal. The Tigers at 23 go with Dylan Cease, somebody who the Cubs drafted and then traded away to the White Sox in the Jose Quintana deal. Dylan Cease really hasn't panned out quite yet either. But like I said, take time with some pitchers, 3 to 4 years, then you would know. And then the Tigers instead went with Derek Hill. The Pirates at 24 go with Ryan O'Hearn. Ryan O'Hearn is somebody interesting. He showed some flashes, had some good power moments with the Royals the last couple years as their first baseman, but I don't know if the Royals think he's their guy for the future. Maybe the Pirates would have used him as a trade asset in 2015 or 2016 when they were contending. And instead, Pittsburgh went with Cole Tucker, which wasn't a terrible pick. The A's at 25 go with Bradley Zimmer, so Zimmer falls to 25 from 21. Zimmer's problem is that he has shown an inability to stay healthy. He's had some moments. He's a good defensive center fielder. The Indians were high on this kid. I don't know if they're in love with him still. Maybe he would have been trade bait for the Athletics in a deal to make them better. And instead, Oakland went with Matt Chapman, who's an absolute star, who I had going number 1 in this redraft. The Boston Red Sox at 26 go with Cole Tucker. Showed some promise with the Pirates and limited playing time. Red Sox probably would have used him as a trade asset because they already have Xander Bogaerts at shortstop. And maybe they throw him in the Chris Sale deal. And instead, Boston went with Michael Chavis, so not a bad pick. Cardinals at 27 go with Eric Feed. So Feed falls from 18 to 27. Feed is somebody that's shown some promise at times that really hasn't lived up to expectations. But I'm not ready to write off Eric Feed yet. Like I said, it takes a couple years sometimes for pitchers to put it together. And instead, the Cardinals went with Luke Weaver, which wasn't a bad pick because he helped them net Paul Goldschmidt, obviously. Okie dokie. So now we're going to do the top 10 movies of 2016. I have an honorable mention, which is Trolls, which is obviously a fun Disney movie that came out that year. Justin Timberlake obviously has Don't Stop the Feeling from that soundtrack. Obviously came out in 2016. Animated comedy Disney film. DreamWorks, I'm sorry. I said Disney. Justin Timberlake's in the movie. Zooey Deschanel, Russell Brand, James Corden, Gwen Stefani, Anna Kendrick. So a lot of big names in this movie. 93-minute movie. It's cute. A lot of songs. Obviously, Ariana Grande has a song on the soundtrack as well. Can't Stop the Feeling is where that song is from this movie. And to my top 10 we go. In 10th place, Moana. 3D animated film, Disney. Ollie Carvalho, Dwayne Johnson, Rachel House, Tamora Morrison, Jermaine Clement, Nicole Scherzinger, and Alan Tudyk. Cute little movie. It's probably one of the better Disney movies of the decade that came out. Not my favorite Disney movie of the decade that will be seen on a future top 10 movies list. I'm not going to give away what year because I don't want to give away the exact Disney movie. But Moana's cute, but like I said, not one of my favorite Disney movies, but it earned a spot on this list. Number 9 on the list for top 10 movies of 2016. Zootopia, another Disney movie. A lot of big names in this movie. Jennifer Goodwin, Jason Bateman, Idris Elba, Jenny Slate, Nate Torrance, Bonnie Hunt, Don Lake, Tommy Chong, J.K. Simmons, Octavia Spencer, Alan Tudyk, and Shakira. So this is a very fun movie. A lot of big names, like I said. 8th place, Moonlight. That's another awesome film. A coming-of-age drama film starring Trevante Rhodes, Andre Holland, Janelle Monáe, Ashton Sanders, Jarrell Jerome, Naomi Harris, and Marshala Ali. And it's an almost 2-hour movie. And by the way, Zootopia is 108 minutes. That's something I forgot to mention. Back to the countdown. Number 7, The Invitation. This movie actually came out in 2015 in the South by Southwest, but it came out in the United States in 2016, so that's why it's in the 2016, because it came out in our country in 2016. 100 minutes long, starring Logan Marshall Green, Tammy Blatchford, Michelle Huisman, Ematse Corinaldi, Lindsay Burge, Michelle Krusik, Mike Doyle, Jay Lawson, and John Carroll Lynch. Karen Kowalska directed it. That was her first movie directed in some time. And 6th place, Me Before You, a romantic drama film. Awesome movie from the 2012 novel of the same name. A 110-minute long movie starring Emilia Clarke and Sam Claflin. Very, very awesome movie. 5th place, La La Land. Obviously, this was a big deal because the Oscars and how they screwed up at the Oscars, Moonlight was the actual winner, but Steve Harvey screwed up and said La La Land. So that's what that movie's going to be forever known for. Over 2 hours long, starring Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, John Legend, and Rosemary DeWitt. And like I said, very awesome romantic musical film. Number 4, The Edge of 17, a very coming-of-age drama, comedy. Came out in 2016 in our country, obviously, starring Haley Steinfeld, Woody Harrelson, Kyra Sedgwick, and Haley Lou Richardson. A very fun movie, very, like I said, dramatic movie. And this was Kelly Furman Craig's directorial debut, so that's pretty neat. Third place, Why Him? A romantic comedy film. John Hamburg was the director and writer. Starring James Franco, Bryan Cranston, Zoe Dutch, Megan Mullally, Cedric the Entertainer, Griffin Gluck, Keegan-Michael Key, and Kaylee Cuoco. So, fun movie, 111 minutes long. Very, 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 very funny movie. That came out later in 2016. Second place, Finding Dory, Disney Pixar, starring Ellen DeGeneres, Albert Brooks, Hayden Rollins, Ed O'Neill, Caitlin Olsen, Ty Burrell, Diane Keaton, and Eugene Levy. 97 minutes long. Fun, cute movie. Obviously, the sequel to Finding Nemo. So, like I said, I think Ellen does great with her Dory character. And the weird thing between this movie and Nemo is that some of the cast members are different. You have a new Nemo in Finding Dory. Nemo in Finding Nemo is Alexander Gold, and Nemo in Finding Dory is Hayden Rollins. Meanwhile, Albert Brooks is Marlin in both movies. And number 1 movie of 2016 on my list, Sully, also known as Sully, Miracle on the Hudson, a biographical drama, awesome movie. Tom Hanks, Aaron Eckhart, Laura Linney, based on Highest Duty by Chelsea Sullenberger and Jeffrey Zaslow. Clint Eastwood did a great job producing this movie. Came out in September of 2016, 96-minute movie. Great movie. Great biography, real-life film. And it obviously follows Sullenberger's January 2009 emergency landing on the U.S. Airways Flight 1549 on the Hudson River, in which all 155 passengers and crew survived with only minor injuries and the subsequent publicity and investigation. So, like I said, an awesome movie and well-deserving of my top movie of 2016. So, that's it for today's show. Tomorrow, more coronavirus-related news, maybe some more NBA talk related to COVID. I'm going to do my first MLB mock draft of the season because the MLB draft is actually in the beginning of June, and they're going to do it virtual just like the NFL did. So I want to get started on that. And then Thursday we'll do NBA redraft of 2014. That should be interesting. And obviously Friday will be NHL redraft of 2014. Tomorrow we'll preview the episode of Masked Singer for tomorrow night. Thursday's Millionaire. And Friday I'll pick the Idol winner on the show. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.